Hello Zimbabwe, welcome to LiveTalk. We are coming to you live from Studio 7 at the Voice of America in Washington. I am your host, Taboka Ncube. Today, we are discussing the worsening water crisis in major cities in the country. This is very vivid in Bulawayo, Harare, and other cities and towns in Zimbabwe. This at a time when the Bulawayo City Council has announced that all suburbs will not have water for the next 3 days due to electrical maintenance work that will affect both the Ncema and Criterion water treatment works. But first, a look at what's happening in the other parts of the world. In Seattle, there were no polling stations for Russian citizens to join the worldwide movement known as Noon Against Putin, a symbolic protest of the re-election of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Instead, they commemorated opposition leader Alexei Navalny and wrote letters to the growing list of political prisoners in Russia. Natasha Mogovaya has the story.
In the past month, this makeshift memorial at the Peace Garden near Seattle's Space Needle became a site where many Russian diaspora members came to express their grief for the late opposition leader Alexei Navalny. About 40 opposition activists again gathered here Sunday as the presidential elections weekend unfolded and Vladimir Putin, in power since 1999, claimed a landslide victory in a non-competitive election.
I know they just draw these results and that's completely fake.
Artem Tomilin, who left Moscow a year and a half ago, came to the memorial for the 10th time this month with a brand new tattoo of Navalny, who according to Russian authorities died February 16 in an Arctic penal colony. Navalny was 47.
He was and is a Russian opposition leader who really inspired me.
Activists signed a petition calling on the US Congress to not recognize the Russian results. Mitch Gold says most Russian citizens in the US did not have access to the polls to submit a protest vote.
The only locations that people can vote abroad is Houston, Texas, in New York, and the Washington, D.C. embassy. And that's for the multi-thousand population of Russian Americans that are willing and wanting to have a change in Russia for the better, for the democracy, and to end the war and the aggression towards Ukraine.
Agata Yanturina says that for her family, the military indoctrination in preschools was the last straw, leading them to leave Russia. But she says she still has hope for change.
As sad as Alexei Navalny's death was, it mobilized a lot of Russians to fight against the regime, and I think it will continue and grow.
The event culminated with writing letters to the lengthening list of political prisoners. Last year, Mariana Markova was sending letters on a regular basis to 18 political prisoners in Russia. This year, her list has grown to 37. Following the polling station's protest, the number of political prisoners is likely to grow exponentially, says Markova.
My friends in Moscow live in constant fear. You cannot say Navalny, you cannot say war, you cannot talk about anything. The recently adopted new laws have allow everything can be a plan for a terrorist act.
Russian opposition activists in Seattle are currently petitioning the local authorities to establish a permanent memorial for Alexei Navalny and vow to continue the struggle for the beautiful Russia of the future he envisioned. Natasha Mogovaya, VOA News, Seattle, Washington.
In the capital city, in Harare, the ICT minister, Tatenda Mavetera, told Studio 7 that school children and young women in marginalized communities should be introduced to robotics and coding at the earliest stage of their education, in line with the government's ICT overhaul thrust.
It is quite important for us as a ministry, more importantly, for us to then be able to come up, especially with women empowerment in terms of digital skills, so that women can also even get involved in entrepreneurship. You will see that right now we've got this ICT conference, which is happening inside the Women's Month. And what we need to do is for us to see measures that we can put in place, especially as a ministry, so that we can come up with policies that are also pro-women. It's important as well to also look at, a lot of people are being exposed to cyber attacks. Let's also look in within the Cyber and Data Protection Act and see what needs to be done, which is more centered to women. You also realize that it's important for us to have an affirmative action program, which will see women get into basic literacy skills. But it's not only about basic literacy skills. We need to go a step forward. Let's look at us, looking at us getting involved even in coding. And even for the young women, we also need to look at them. You realize there was a program that we said we also needed to do. Let's look at the curriculum that is being offered right now at the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. What is it that we need to do? Let's introduce coding. Let's also introduce robotics for those young girls as early as primary school. And you also realize that for us to be able to progress, we need to be able to empower women, especially in the digital era.
That was ICT Minister Tatenda Mavetera speaking to Studio 7 in Harare this afternoon. Melissa Sandile Mabeza, a University of Zimbabwe student living with a disability who attended the Women's Conference in ICT, said disabled women are sometimes discriminated against by organizations and companies when job opportunities arise. Melissa said she even struggled to get an industrial attachment. She is, however, optimistic that ICT will make life easy for women living with disabilities.
Ngicabanga ukuthi kuze kube lula ukuthi abantu abakhubazekileyo be-study in computer related jobs kungabasiza kakhulu ngoba kuba lula ukuthi befunde and akufuni a lot of physical action ukuthi be-move kakhulu around ukuthi beze bekwanise ukufunda and ukuthi bekwanise ukwenza lo msebenzi wabo. So in terms of emzimbeni akufaki strain okuningi and kuba lula ukuthi beyenza imisebenzi yabo emsebenzini ngoba akula okuningi okufunakalayo. So inkinga engihlangana lazo ukuthi khona lokuthi imisebenzi yahlupha ukuthola. Ngiyakhumbula ngidinga attachment ngasokola kanzima ukuthi ngizothola umsebenzi. Ngagcina sengibuyela khona e-UZ ngibacela ukuthi bengiqhashe ukuthi ngithole umsebenzi because babe ngangithi ngihamba ku interview sekubuza ukuthi suqedile sekubuza ukuthi sovele like uzakwanisa ukubuya wedwa, uzakwanisa ukusebenzisa izinto wedwa, uzakwanisa ukusebenzisa i-laptop wedwa. Imibuzo yona leyo engafeel ukuthi babe sokukhangelela phansi kulokuthi bebona ukuthi uzokwanisa yena ukwenza umsebenzi.
Melissa Sandile Mabeza is a University of Zimbabwe student living with a disability. She was speaking to Studio 7 after attending an ICT conference in Harare. After the break, we'll delve in deeper into our topic, but for now, stay tuned as we take a brief break.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depend on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
For those that have just joined us, please note that we are streaming live on our Facebook pages, VOA Shona, VOA Studio 7, and VOA Ndebele. We are also live on YouTube, VOA Zimbabwe. Now back to our topic of the day. Zimbabwe water wars are expected to worsen this year following a crippling drought fueled by the El Nino weather phenomenon. We are discussing the water crisis at a time when the Bulawayo City Council has announced that all suburbs will not have water for the next 3 days due to electrical maintenance work that will affect both the Ncema and Criterion water treatment works. And now to discuss this issue in detail, we are joined on the line by Bulawayo City Council Water Committee Chairperson, Councillor Khalazani Ndlovu, Bulawayo Progressive Residents Association Coordinator, Ms. Permanent Sibanda, and Harare Residents Trust Director, Mr. Precious Shumba. Welcome to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll start with you, Councillor Ndlovu. Looking at the situation in Bulawayo, what is the status as we speak?
Come again, I didn't get your question.
What is the status of the water situation in Bulawayo as we speak?
Balaleli ngibonga lo mphathi wehlelo amanzi akobulawayo esilawo malutshwana kakhulu kusenziwa isomiso sike khona phakathi na region yethu lokuthi ama-catchment area yethu lapho esithuwethe khona kusema-south aba yindawo engatholi izulu ngokwaneleyo. Amadamu ethu kawanamanzi as we speak, and lama-plants ethu ngokufuza aseyiyona njalo kusuka kube nzima ukuthi sinikeze umphakathi amanzi everyday. Ukuzama ukugogo okuncane esilapho ukuthi sibe singela ngengaka kuthola abangaka nelawo ngengaka kuthola ngaka ukwenza ukuthi asantela ngaphakathi.
Siyabonga Councillor Ndlovu. Vashumba tichiuya kwamuri kuHarare uko zvakamira sei tichitarisa nyaya yedambudziko remvura iyi?
Tinotenda zvikuru munzvimbo zhinji dzemuHarare, ndingati masuburbs anogara weruzhinji, mazhinji anga achitambura kushayiwa mvura, kunyanya masvondo matatu adarika situation yange yakanyanya kushata ngekuti dzimwe nzvimbo dzinosimbowana mvura kwemazuva kana kuti matatu kana mana pasvondo dzanga dzichiwana kana zuva rimwe chete kana kushayiwa. Nzvimbo dzakafanana nekunana Glaudina, kuwadzana nekunana Glenora kwanga kuine dzimwe nzvimbo dzanga dziri kunyanya kushayiwa mvura. Tichitarisa zvakare uwandu hwemvura huri kuwanikwa, zvinoratidza kuti kadzuru yedu yeguta reHarare inogona kuunza mvura inokwana kusvika nofunga 40-45%. Imwe chidimbu chemvura inenge yapombwa kubva kuMorton Jeffrey chiri kurasika munzira nokuda kwe-leakages and illegal connections along the water distribution network. So the water situation has been very, very dire, and most residents have had to resort to bore water, which is a serious problem because even some of the bores are drying up and have serious challenges in terms of times when they are opened to the public to access water.
Tinotenda Vashumba. We also have a resident on the line. We have Ms. Permanent Sibanda representing the Bulawayo Progressive Residents Association. Ms. Sibanda, sikhangela udaba lolo lukhulunywa ngalo lina njengezakhamizi libona njani udubo lwamanzi lolo?
Development is a big, huge problem. Especially maybe if law is declared as a state of emergency. ngoba esikumanzelelayo ukuthi amanzi ahlala kwezinye indawo bahlala more than 2 weeks without water coming out of their tap. Sesike sakhulumisana le City Council ukuthi besincedise ngama-bowser abuye more regularly than the supply that they were doing before, ukwenzela ukuthi kukhave i-gap lani yokuthi amanzi ehlale ngekho. So njengezakhamizi phakathi kohlupho kakhulu ngoba spend most of our productive time looking for alternative sources of water. Kwezinye indawo uthola izakhamizi zikha amanzi kuma-open sources angekho safe, kuba labantwana bawela phakathi kwama-trees kona lawo. So sasisibana ngathi kungaba le ndlela yokubana uhulumende engathatha seriously indaba yokuswelakala amanzi koBulawayo and declare Bulawayo water crisis as a state of emergency.
Siyabonga Councillor Ndlovu, sibone umbiko okhitshwe yiBulawayo City Council isithi okwamalanga amathathu ukuqalise namuhla kuza kuba kungelamanzi endaweni zonke esihlala uZulu. Kule ndlela na ezifakiwe ukuthi uZulu abe ethola amanzi ngalesi sikhathi, njengoba kuzikhatshana ezedlule besibona ukuthi kwezindawo belihambisa amabhawuzi ukuthi abantu bathola amanzi. Pho nxa sekuzindawo zonke okuhlala khona abantu lizakwenelisa na ukuthi litholise abantu amanzi?
Yebo, iyo i-problem esihlangane layo phakathi nako koBulawayo akwe-3 days lezi. Kodwa-ke thina sithe sikhangela i-Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday asila amalokitshi vele kade siwavulele amanzi. Sibone kulithuba elihle lokuthi silungise sikulungisayo during this time according to our 120-hour schedule. Kodwa-ke lapho kufika khona kusiwa lesimo esibucayi, kungaba kusezintsheni, kungaba yilabo abangenelisanga ukukhelela prior, ngoba thina sithi uZulu nxa amanzi efika ungabona efike epompini ama-containers olawo ngikhaya sebenzisa wona ukhelele especially for household use. Then lawa amanye awokusebenzisa ngase-toilet lezingadi abantu behambe beyethatha ezikotsho ezibhorane lesilazo. Kodwa-ke kulesi simo sesikiso sangawumvulo lwesibili nangolwesithathu ikhona yekhona abale-challenge enkulu ukuthi bedika babonanga isimemezelo sokuthi amanzi azacishwa ibajumile. Nxa sebele problem bayahamba ku-local councillor wabo oyabe khona khonapho. U-local councillor uzalayeza engineer we-water works, which is isikhumbuzo azama ngazo zonke indlela ukuthi lezo ndawo ezile problem enkulu yamanzi, especially asikhangelanga ukuthi umuntu athola amanzi okunatha, lizagijima ibhawuza liye kulezo ndawo. Sikhangela ukuthi kusiyafika ngolwesine isimo lesi sizabe sesifilungisile. Sile bhawuza lilodwa koBulawayo abadala bayakwazi ukuthi bayasibekezelela, amabili siwahayile. Siwahayelela such a situation esesibhekane layo ngoba khona kungumakipeli lapho siyalanda khona isomiso. Lokho sifisa ukuthi uhulumende kuwe uyasideclare as a water crisis. Singabantwana phela siyakhala kumzali, lokho silindile kodwa asikwazi ukuthi uzakwenza nini, ukwenza ukuthi labanye nje labo behawukele umntwana kamakhelwane ukuthi hawu baze badubeka kangaka mhlawumbe singanceda ngefunding ethile ngoba silama-projects anjengensiza i-duplication of insiza pipeline esikhangelele ukuthi ingasisiza koBulawayo. Ngiyabonga.
Siyabonga Councillor Ndlovu. Coming to you, Mr. Shumba, looking at the situation in Harare, what are the recommendations that you would have, not just for Harare, but the whole of Zimbabwe when it comes to the issue of water shortages? Looking at that, we are at this time where we are facing a serious drought.
The major recommendation probably for most urban and rural areas is that the sinking of bores should be regulated, because the more bores we have within a residential area, we are going to create a huge challenge in terms of the water table. Now that most bores are drying up, it would be wise to have one electric powered or hydroelectric powered bore or solar powered bore, and then people's houses are connected to it. That would mean that we do not need necessarily to have a bore or a bore for each household, but for a specific community. Then into the water leakages, the best, the most viable recommendation would be for the councils or the government to invest in the upgrade of the underground pipes for the distribution network to ensure that the water pumped from the pumping stations reaches the intended households, because currently most local authorities are losing up to 60% of treated water, and that's a huge loss considering that most water treatment chemicals are coming from abroad. Then there is also need to invest in water supply infrastructure, like new dams that would bring fresh water to the urban population.
Thank you, Mr. Shumba. We have a caller, Khululani, lingenele kuhlelo baba lingabe lisixhuma lingapi?
Ngiyaphila bayi lapha eSouth Africa lapha endixhuma ngikhona.
Hayi siyabonga, liyalubona lapha udubo lwamanzi esilalo namhlanje lina lithini ngalo?
Udubo lwamanzi lolu luyangitsha kakhulu futhi luyangihlukumeza ngoba lubulala ibulawayo kakhulu. Kodwa umbuzo wami uthi amadamu wona aphelelaphi lawa uhulumende wayathembise abantu ukuthi azasupply amanzi kobulawayo, ikakhulu idamu lena laseNcema lapha kodwa lizo supply amanzi kobulawayo. Uhlelo lohamba lwaphelela kuphi ngoba cabanga ukuthi lolo lozasiza kakhulu edolobheni elikhulu kobulawayo lapha.
Hayi siyabonga baba Khumalo ukuthi lingenile kuhlelo.
Okay.
Yeah. Sibuya kini councillor kulo mbuzo lapha obuye lo baba uKhumalo ukuthi kwaba lokwethembisa ukuthi kuza kuba le damu kumbe amadamu amatsha azagejwa ukwenzela ukuthi kutholakale amanzi kobulawayo. Umbuzo wakhe ngokuthi uhlelo lolu lwaphelela ngaphi kumbe selukusibanga siphi?
Ngiyabonga kulungile umbuzo kababa uKhumalo, kodwa-ke ngithi nxa ngumntwana kumzali ucela everyday uyabe sithi ngizakutshengela isigqoko siyabuya yikho lapho lathi esilokhu sikhona wadinga follow up. Kodwa-ke emalangeni ngoJanuwari uhulumende ukhiphe ikomiti yakhe, uminist we-water ukhiphe ikomiti yakhe yabuya kobulawayo phansi ukuthi izobona umumo mathupha. Kade beku-100 day mission engilethemba lokuthi sebeqedile sesike sahlangana labo sa-exchange ama-notes. Amadamu kobulawayo asadingiswa nguhulumende awakakhiwa, kodwa-ke kule private partner, ngathi private player efuna ukuthi yathela idamu elibizwa kuthiwa i-gas block dam. Kusase inkulumo zakhona kusakhulunyiswana, akukaqedwa ukulungiswa i-paperwork, kodwa-ke silethemba lokuthi le indlela esesiyiphethe njengobulawayo angeke yasithiya egangeni. Sithenjisiwe ukuyakhela idamu ele-gas block elisensiza. Injalo silinde i-long term plan yethu eyigwayisha ngani ekade lathi sazalwa ilungiswa, yiyo esake siyikhangele njalo futhi kuhulumende. Yikho uhlelo olukhona ngamadamu okubulawayo.
Siyabonga. Yeah, Ms. Svanda, we heard there Mr. Shumba speaking where he raised a number of issues that are happening, including leakages and boreholes drying up in Harare. Are we seeing the same situation happening in Bulawayo? And what probably will be your recommendations in terms of dealing with such challenges in the country?
Okay. Yes, we are seeing the same situation of boreholes drying up in the country, in Bulawayo, sorry. And for me, one of the key major recommendation issues that I want to give to maybe Bulawayo City Council is they are busy implementing or finding strategies to assist residents with alternative water supplies. I'll suggest that maybe they also look at public places like schools and hospitals and prioritize those places, because we understand that the situation in hospitals is not easy when patients do not have the coming out of their bed. And we are even hearing some schools are requesting that school-going kids should bring about 2 liters of water when they come to school. So my recommendation is that we can, the Bulawayo City Council and the government at large, prioritize those public places where our children are at school and also hospitals, in making sure that they have a regular water supply.
Thank you. Ngizaphenduka kini Councilor Ndlovu kulo mbuzo lapha ovele komunye wabalaleli bethu ofake ku Facebook esithi yena imali esizibhadalayo azihambelani lamanzi esiwatholayo. Lina lokhu njenge council lithini ngakho? Abantu bayakhala lapha bathi hayi imali abazibhadalayo ziphezulu kodwa bengatholi amanzi njalo bengatholi usizo oluningi luvele eCouncilini. Lina lithini ngalokho?
Uqinisile umhlali ngalokho akufayo, kodwa-ke mina ngizwe ukuphendulela i-department ye-finance. Abe-finance bababona ngapho khonokho ukuthi ama-meters aminjani. Kodwa ngicebisa abalaleli ngalesi sikhathi, ungazibona une-bill eli-abnormal, thintana lo-councillor wakho mhlawumbe kumbe zihambele straight etop lokuyebonana no-director we-finance services, akuchasisele kuchasiselane ngebhili leli abnormal, ngoba esikhathini esiningi sihlala singenamanzi koBulawayo. Then you find ukuthi ibhili liyabe selimdurele umuntu kamlilo. Kodwa-ke ukuthi kube nobufakazi, fika lelo bhili kulabo abayenza kwamabhili baza kuchasisela. I'm not well vexed ngento ze-finance, ngingaphaphalaza mangingaphawuli.
Yes, siyabonga Councilor Ndlovu. Tichidzoka kwamuri vashumba muchi pendera chirongwa munguva diki nde api matano amakatarisira kuti ange achitorwa gore rino sezo paine dambudziko guru rekuti mvura haina kunaya uyezve tatagara takatarisana nedambudziko remvura.
Tinofunga kuti pari zvino kanzuru inofanirwa kuisa mari padiwi yekunyanya kugadzirisa nyaya yekuti iyo mvura itomboripo yacho inofanirwa kusvika yakati wandei kune wagari, yekuti kana tichirasikirwa mvura inodarika hafu yemvura yamuri kupomba, chinoreva kuti muri kupombera mvura pasi isingasviki kuwagari. Tikutarisira kuti panofanirwa kuiswa mari yakati wandei kuti izvozvo zviitike. Uye kuma water treatment chemicals, tarisiro yedu ndeyekuti kanzuru inofanirwa kutsvagurudza mikana yekutenga mishonga kune mamwe makambani anogona kuva akachipa pane zvavari kuita.
Ndine urombo vashumba, ndichakudimbirirai pakati. Nguva yedu ndo yati manyei. That brings us to the end of our show. Signing off in Washington, I am Taboka Ngcuben.